position and dimension, and then checks if it is the first time you are in the nether, awarding the advancement. Because it happens in this order, if you were to somehow crash the game in between these two events, the code that gives you the advancement would never run, but you would still end up in the nether. The only question is how you would ever pull this off in survival mode without cheating.
Okay.
This was not something I could figure out on my own. In fact, this isn't even the first time I've attempted this challenge.
So this was the old
discovered
setup.
This theoretical way to skip the nether advancements a year and a half ago, but I never found a way to actually do it for real. It sounded completely impossible, but after every person I talked to, after every dead end, I always held on to a small amount of hope. And the reason I'm making this video is because a new exploit was recently discovered that actually makes this possible. In order to get to the nether without the advancement, you need to crash the game after it moves the player, but before it awards the advancement. The only problem is that these lines of code are effectively right next to each other. You can't just Alt F4 Minecraft. It would literally be impossible to time. So you also need to crash the game because the player was moved into the nether. Something during this specific action needs to somehow go wrong. This is where Micahrific and Katie the QT come in. They discovered a brand new exploit that, among many other things, can actually be used to crash the game because the player was moved into the nether. Their full breakdown on everything the exploit can do will be linked in the description, but I'm going to try and simplify it to the best of my ability. It's a little complex, so please, if you would, I'm gonna need you to put your phone away. Okay, so when you are playing Minecraft, every entity is given an ID number. Everything from mobs to items, even the player gets an ID number. The entity ID number simply starts at 1 and increments upwards. Every time the game creates or loads in a new entity, it is simply given the next number in the list. This ID system is how the game keeps track of all
Are we gonna fucking integer overflow the number of entities?
All the entities loaded in the world. So the game doesn't really like it if there is 2 entities with the same ID number. In fact, the developers made it so that the game instantly crashes if this situation ever occurs. And the reason all of this is important is because we need the game to crash when it tries to move the player into the nether. And the player also has an entity ID number. So, this means that if there was an entity in the nether with the same ID as the player, when the game attempts to move the player into the nether, the 2 entity IDs will collide, instantly crashing the game before it can give you the advancements.
Okay.
Now, it was just a matter of doing that in survival mode without cheating. Yo, there's a slime. What's up, dude? Oh! Yo, you did... It sounds impossible, but you can actually make an entity that has the same ID as the player on the late...
Tazo's editing, I've said this before, is the best that I've ever seen in Minecraft YouTube. Like, this guy has so much aura. Yeah. So fucking sick.
Latest version of Minecraft. It's just incredibly difficult and requires a massive redstone machine that I would need to build.
Better than Bitzel?
So, with my new diamond pickaxe, I spent the next...
Uploads more than Bitzel. So...
5 hours carefully gathering materials, collecting 8 stacks of redstone, almost 2 stacks of iron. I had to raid the mine shaft I found because I needed string for dispensers. Using my hoppers and the bundle, I was also able to collect the cobblestone I needed for all of the redstone components. I actually don't even know if I need to dodge stone being in my inventory. I'm afraid. Redstone